What's up, guys? This is Carter Karels with GigEm 247 here at AT&T Stadium. Texas A&M beats Arkansas 21-17. A wacky game, a close game, and a game that A&M ends up winning. Doesn't it happen every year here at AT&T Stadium? That makes 7 of the last 11 of these games a one-possession game. And now A&M has won 12 of the last 13 of these games. It's weird. They've been dominant, but every game is close. It always ends up going out of the end, and A&M coming out with the win almost every time. So, this win makes Texas A&M 4-1 on the season. It's a huge win because, going into it, and there's a lot of rowdiness going on around me. Let's see if you guys can see Nick Scorton, some A&M players walking into the locker room. But this makes them 4-1, and you lose this game, man, are you going 7-5? Is this, you're gonna have some tougher games coming up. Certainly Missouri is a tougher team than Arkansas. Texas is a tougher team, maybe LSU, maybe South Carolina. So you had to win this game against a coach that's certainly on the hot seat for Arkansas. But also, you win this game, and all of a sudden, hey, you're 4-1. And if you beat Missouri next week, right before your first bye week, all of a sudden you're in business. And so to get this win, all of a sudden now the Aggies have their whole season in front of them. Only 10-2 gets you in the playoff most likely if you're in the SEC, and with this favorable schedule A&M has, hey, this could set up well for them to go on a run. Now, don't want to get too far ahead, obviously, because this team does need to get a lot better if they want to even sniff the playoff conversation. I mean, this game today was quite ugly, especially for this offense. It was not looking good. I think Marcel Reed started the game 3 of 4 for 72 yards and a touchdown. And then he went 1 of 9 for 13 yards his next 9 passes. And really the second and third quarter for this offense, I mean, they got nothing going. And whether you talk about predictable play calling, where it seemed like every 2nd and 10 was a run up the middle, it seemed like every time Terry Bussey's in the game, you know what he's going to do. Whether it's Marcel Reed just not playing a very good football game. I mean, misses a wide open Noah Thomas for a long touchdown there in the second half to open it up. Sailed a couple throws, right? Not a great game for him. And the running game really didn't do anything up until the fourth quarter when Le'Veon Moss just took over. And outside of Noah Thomas, other receivers did a whole lot. And this is not a great Arkansas defense. Yes, they've been good against the run. Yes, they've had their moments, but it's an Arkansas defense that gave up 27 against UAB and a whole bunch of points against Oklahoma State. And this offense has got issues. The O-line, they had their moments where, there was one throw that Marcel Reed had to Cyrus Allen where it looked like he had 15 seconds to throw. Then there's other times where, the O-line's getting a little bit whipped. And so this offense is kind of the big question coming out of this game. And obviously, who's your starting quarterback going forward? Connor Wigman did not dress out for the game today. He had been listed as questionable all week. Is Connor Wigman still your starting quarterback when he comes back? Remains to be seen. But right now, I don't know if Marcel Reed's doing enough to cement himself. Now, hey, you can look at it and he's 3-0 as a starter, winning games, but we haven't seen him fully take control of that job. So something to watch. Now, the positive for this team is what this defense did. It was kind of a disaster at the very beginning. You had the huge touchdown to Tesla to start the game. It's 3rd and 10, and it seemed like 3 guys almost sacked Taylor Green. And then all of a sudden he pulls away and finds his guy, beats Jaden Hill at nickel for the long touchdown on 3rd and 10. 3 plays into the game, all of a sudden it's 7-0. And, this is an A&M team that started games pretty well. Scored on their first drive of every game except, today to this point. And all of a sudden it's 7-0. Then later in the quarter, they have the punt. You call it a fake punt, but really it wasn't. It was the punter saw a hole. He's a rugby style punter, so it's not like he, it was designed for him to do that. He just ran to the right, saw a hole, and said, hey, I'm going to take this, even though it was 4th and 15. Gets a 25-yard gain, sets up another touchdown. Now all of a sudden it's 14-7. By the end of the first quarter, they had 187 yards, 14 points. The final 3 quarters, though, the A&M defense only gives up 3 points. And, story of the game, is really what this pass rush did. They only finished with 2 sacks, but Taylor Green was running for his life for much of the day. And you got to give a lot of credit to what Nick Scorton and Shamar Stewart did. A&M fans this season haven't been very happy with the sack production. They see the Big Ten sack leader comes in. They see all the hype that Shamar Stewart has coming in, and they haven't produced the sack production that people thought that they would. Well, today they kind of lived up to that hype where, man, they just took over in certain stretches. And what happened beyond that, when you have that pass rush, it helps your DBs. Will Lee was making some plays. Des Ricks got the first start and got a pick and had an impact. I think that the issue for this defense remains giving up big plays. We talked about the very beginning of the game where Jaden Hill, say hello to the media people. They were laughing at me, so I knew I was going to lose my focus. But anyway, Jaden Hill, been a big issue for this defense, filling in a nickel for Tyreek Chappelle, and gave up the big play at the beginning. And you're kind of thinking, man, should he stay in the game? Should he be the starting nickel? We saw BJ Mays run as kind of the second team guy in warmups. Could they bring Mays in? They stuck with Hill. Didn't seem to give up a ton of big plays after that, and it certainly wasn't perfect, but had a couple big plays. I think he had the sack, he had the fumble recovery. So I don't know if he quite vindicated himself, but he did not give up the explosive play after that. And it just remains the big issue is, against Florida, you had some big plays he gave up. Bowling Green, had the reverse, had the big touchdown of the tight end that they gave up. Notre Dame, second half, a couple big touchdowns. So overall, though, the biggest issue for the defense beyond the explosives have been finishing games. Bowling Green went off in the second half. McNeese State had a great second half. Notre Dame had a great second half. Florida had a great second half. Every game this year, the second half has been bad for this defense. 3 points. I think that's a huge win against an Arkansas team that was ranked pretty highly in almost every category you can think of. So kudos to that defense for figuring it out, and really they deserve all the credit for this win because of how poorly the offense played today. Noah Thomas deserves a lot of praise. He's somebody that is he a number one receiver? Can he be a number one receiver? But kind of been the question. Really hadn't shown up before today. Had only 78 yards through 4 games. And he was there when they needed him most. I mean, time and again coming down with huge catches. Obviously had the 58-yard touchdown to begin the game where he slips out of a tackle and runs 35 yards more for the end zone. Honestly, could have had almost 200 yards today. He had the 70-yard touchdown that Marcel Reed just overthrew. It would have been a 70-yard touchdown. Ended up with about 109 yards. So Marcel Reed makes that throw, and all of a sudden, I think a lot of us are talking more about the day that Noah Thomas had. Should talk more about Le'Veon Moss. I mean, golly, that guy just runs with a vengeance to him. I think there was one point where he stiff-armed the referee on that big 22-yard run that he had in the second half. Played a major role in the final touchdown drive for A&M. I think he had 3 carries for 46 yards, and maybe it was 41 yards, but just ran with a lot of authority. And started the game. I think he had like 30 yards going into the fourth quarter. Finished with about 110, and he's someone who's on pace now for a 1,000-yard rushing season, probably almost close to 500 yards through the first 5 games. And I don't know if that's what we expected going into the year. I mean, I remember we were talking to Colin Klein just a couple months ago, and he's saying, yeah, it's probably going to be a running back by committee. This is no committee. This is Le'Veon Moss's backfield, and he just continues to get better. He's the kind of guy that just gets better as the game goes on, as the defense gets worn down. He just gets stronger and stronger, and when the defense can finish better, and you got Le'Veon Moss, that's a real weapon to have. I mean, you can, when you have that lead, when you're up 21-17 late, and you've got a one-dimensional offense on the other side for whether it's Arkansas or the team that happens to be trailing that day, they're having to throw a lot, and all of a sudden, I mean, A&M's pass rush can come alive. Then on the flip side, when A&M's got that lead, they can give the ball to a guy like Le'Veon Moss who can just fight for the extra yards. So a real weapon to have when you couple that pass rush and a guy like Le'Veon Moss, and you have a lead in the fourth quarter. That now makes 4 straight wins for Texas A&M, and you can kind of sense some belief in this team now. I was on the field post-game. I was standing right behind Jerry Jones. How about that? Jerry Jones having to give A&M the trophy. The Arkansas alum, I can't imagine that he loves doing that, and he's had to do it 12 times over the last 13 years. But sitting there, and I've noticed this over the last few weeks where obviously every team's excited to win, but there just seems to be sort of a brotherhood, a belief, a good feel from a culture perspective from this team. I'm looking at a guy like Moose Muhammad, who, man, should he play more? Should he not? Does he have a bad attitude? What's the deal? That guy is as fired up as anybody on that field after the game, after barely playing today. I just think that shows you a good sign of, when the guy who might not be the best for the locker room can be somebody who, is as fired up as he was after the game. That's awesome. That's awesome. Now I got Travis Brown with KBTX being a clown showing up in my video that I'm going to be posting on YouTube. You're dumb. He's lucky I don't take myself too seriously. Now, the bad news is I've got big time ADHD, so now I'm going to be thrown off the rest of the video. But anyway, just, this win, we talked to Mike Elko after the game, and, I don't think A&M fans will love to hear it, but he said, hey, you can't just press the button when you're a first-year head coach and all of a sudden your team's amazing and plays the right way for all 4 quarters and is, this dominant team. He said this team's going to have growing pains. This team's going to play ugly. And, the hope is just to win these games. And, yeah, I mean, it hasn't been pretty for this team, and I can fully understand why A&M fans are skeptical and think, hey, 4-1, but if you look last year, they started 4-1. We saw how that turned out. And so I think where this team stands right now, if you had said, hey, 4-1 coming out of the Arkansas game before the year, I think you would have felt decent about that. But I think from what we've seen so far, it makes sense to say, hey, yes, you can beat Arkansas. Yes, you can beat Florida. But can you beat Missouri? Can you beat Texas? Can you beat LSU? And right now, from what we've seen, I don't think so. But those games aren't tomorrow. And so if they can continue to improve, they've got enough wins behind them now to where all of a sudden, you know, you begin to have some belief in yourself and really have a season in front of you where you can accomplish a whole lot. So yeah, you lose this game today, this could be a 7-5 team in the year. But you win this game, all of a sudden an 8-9 win season does not look entirely improbable. Well, at this point, probably talking in circles, and probably gonna have somebody cut into our video once again. These knuckleheads looking at me. So that's all for today, y'all. See you guys next week at Kyle Field against Missouri, and y'all have a great one.